You are listening to the Our View podcast, where we aim to educate, raise awareness, and change the tone of conversation about disabilities. Every week, we bring you episodes that are centered around topics related to disabilities. As the host, it is my hope that you are not just inspired by these stories that are shared, but that you put some action behind your inspiration to do something that improves the lives of those who live with disabilities. I thank you, our loyal listeners, for your support and remind you to subscribe to our YouTube channel at Our View for Life and to leave us a review on Apple Podcasts to tell us what you enjoy most about the podcast. Let's get into this conversation. So I would like to welcome everyone back to another episode of the Our View podcast, where we aim to educate, raise awareness, and change the tone of conversation about disabilities. As you are aware, I did not put out an episode this past Monday as I usually do. Things just got really hectic, and I just didn't have time to edit any of the episodes that I have pre-recorded, and I just honestly gave myself a break. However, this past weekend was the annual Super Bowl event for the NFL, and I think there has been a great deal of conversation about the American Sign Language interpreters who were performing alongside the singers at the event in the pregame event. The interpreters were announced, and they were never shown or hardly shown on the national broadcast for the Super Bowl. And come to find out, there was a separate YouTube channel that was showing these interpreters that were performing along with the people who were singing. So this is just a very brief episode, and I invited my friend Kalina Powell, who was on a previous episode of the podcast, to join me today. She is deaf, and so I wanted to get her perspective because I am not deaf. So I also listen to those within the deaf community, and I am aware that I don't have all the answers, and I don't know what the best answers are for something like being deaf that does not affect my life at this time. So I invited Kalina on to join me to share her perspective, to give her feedback and her insight on this situation that has occurred at the Super Bowl, and just to share what she feels that the NFL and other media outlets can do better to be more inclusive of those of us within the uh, disability community, including those who are deaf and hard of hearing. So this is a conversation with my friend Kalina, and please leave a message, leave a comment, share this podcast, let us know what your thoughts are about this situation with the NFL, and hopefully that things are improving. They are having ASL interpreters now, so that is an improvement from years in the past. And then I think my hope, as always, is to change the tone of conversation about disabilities. So I really hope that through conversations like this and the ones that are being had around social media and the news stories that are being posted, that people can start to see the importance of having ASL interpreters and actually showing them on the national broadcast, as ASL is the language that people who are deaf that they use. So it is another language, and it should be available to all. So uh, let's get into this conversation. I hope you enjoy it. So yeah, so I started recording earlier, but this is a new episode of the Our View podcast today, and I'm here with a returning guest who was on a previous episode of the podcast, Kalina Powell. And Kalina, thank you so much for joining me today. And our topic um, and if this episode seems to be all over the place, it probably because it is all over the place, because it's one of my less or least planned episodes. I didn't know I was doing it until the Super Bowl happened this past weekend, and there has been a lot of conversation around the American Sign Language interpreters that were performing alongside the singers during the pre-show of the broadcast. Where, um, wait, I wrote it down. Let me get it right. Colin Denny, he is a deaf Native American from the Arizona Navajo Nation. He interpreted uh, the Grammy Award winner singer's Babyface's performance of America the Beautiful. And Colin was using ASL, American Sign Language, and North American Indian Sign Language. Troy Kotzer is an Oscar winner from the film Coda, and he signed the national anthem. And the really big performer that caught everyone's attention is Justina Miles. She's actually from Philadelphia. I'm from New Jersey, so it's like she's like a homegirl, and she interpreted Cheryl Lee Ralph's rendition of "Lift Every Voice and Sing," and she also performed next to Rihanna for the halftime show. The big discussion that's going on is they announced all of these great and wonderful ASL interpreters, but they never showed them on TV, or they showed them for one or two lines of the song, and that was it. And that uh, it was so interesting with this week. I try to put out a new podcast episode every Monday, but I didn't put one out this week because I just, I fell behind on editing. I have episodes done. I just have to edit them and put them
Yeah.
together. But then I was just like, no, I'm just gonna give myself a break. Yeah, the Super Bowl happened and people were like, yeah, you got to talk about this on your podcast. I'm like, okay, I'm on it. It was yeah, a lot of people. I got it at least four times. And one of my good friends, Samantha, she said, "You have to talk about this on your podcast." I said, "Oh, I'm planning on it." And then I was like, "I'm not really. Of course, I can talk about it, but I said I would rather have someone from the deaf community to talk about it as well, just to to make sure so I don't miss anything really, because I really want. I feel like it's important to have your perspective as well on the topic, um, just because it's cool to see, but it's like such a shame that you have to go to YouTube to see it, and it's like, and I did post something about that on my Our View Facebook page earlier in the week, last week before the Super Bowl, that showed the links where you could watch the full performances, where it showed the singer, an actual side by side, or I think one picture was above the other with the ASL interpreter. So I invited you, Kalina, on because you identify as a deaf um, deaf woman, and I wanted your input on this because it's really frustrating, I think, is a good word for me. And I don't identify as deaf or hard of hearing, but it's from an accessibility standpoint, from a disability and disability representation standpoint, I really find this type of thing to be very frustrating, I think is the best word that I can use for this. So I just wanted to see like what your thoughts were, and what what input or feedback you could provide about this. So,
Okay. Okay. So, hello everybody. Thank you for allowing me to return back. I'm excited to be here.
yes,
And honestly, it just sucks that it happened twice. It's like you did not learn from the first lesson when we all came out and said, why? First of all, the first one was really horrible because no one knew where to find it.
right.
And now you're doing it again.
Hmm.
And I thought Super Bowl because it's been viewed by over millions of people, and I thought they would have common sense that okay, this is the second time it's happening. we need to make sure that everybody is aware where to find the interpreter.
Hmm.
And I myself personally who is learning ASL right now. And for me to speak on that behalf, I was just like, because I was looking and I'm like, where is the interpreter for Rihanna that everybody was talking about? And I was looking too, and I'm like, are you kidding me? And so I'm like, no one could announce that. Um,
Right.
so it's just fascinating because why is that we need to watch two screens of a show, a football show? Come on, like,
Right.
and it just sucks. I just feel like, why do we need to work so much sometimes more harder knowing it's 2023? Technology change. You should be able to be acceptable. And the fact that the second time it kind of threw me off completely because I thought honestly we were gonna see interpreter on the same stage or somewhere where we are is.
Right.
And that's what I thought.
Yeah.
And to find out it was on YouTube and I was like, wait, why? And it just really so sad that like we still have to continually use so many different tools to get where we need to go. And it's like, why do we need to watch YouTube? Like, come on, like,
Right. Like you said, it's
so sad.
2023. It's 2023, and um, they have the time, and they, well, first of all, most importantly, I think they have the money to use the
That's what
technology
I'm
that is
saying.
available.
That's why I just said it's Super Bowl.
Yeah, they have the money. They're what the advertisers are, they're paying well over $1 million for the commercials. Put some of that money into technology to to make it truly accessible, and put a two screens on the big broadcast and show it for everybody, because I, I think it's really cool. Like you said, you're just learning ASL right now. Um, but it's, for children, for young children who may be watching and are learning ASL, it's, this is a great thing to show them and to show everybody, um, how awesome it is. And it's another form of language. Like, it's called American Sign Language. Like, so it is language, that a large population of people use. So I think they're really missing a big opportunity here to show full inclusion. Um, and I think the part that bothers me the most is, I don't have, I'm not hearing impaired, I'm not deaf, but I do have a physical disability where I use a wheelchair. And a lot of times, um, buildings are not accessible through the front entrance. So as a wheelchair user, I might have to use a side entrance or a back entrance to get into the building where everybody else can use the front. But there's steps there or other obstacles that prevent me from using that entrance. So this really it put it into a different perspective for me, for those who are deaf or hard of hearing. They may, they feel like they're not a part of the true experience of the Super Bowl, because they have to go to another platform to watch a special version of the performances that are for them, that include the ASL interpreters. And that's I think that's what bothers me the most, because people with disabilities, we fight so hard for people to see us as everyone else. And then we have something like this, which may not seem like a big deal to some people, but for those of us in the disability community, it's like all of our life we have to fight and put, wow, that's a quote from the Color Purple movie. All my life I had to fight. But they they make us feel like we're not equal with everybody else by telling us, oh, you have to use this side entrance for somebody like me with a wheelchair, and for people in the deaf community, oh, you have to use this other platform, YouTube, to enjoy this experience, when everyone else can watch it on the national television channel. So it's just very, very frustrating to me. And as you said, that in today's time of 2023, that we are still fighting for the inclusion, the equality of being there with everybody else. Um, One thing I did see, I've been reading a lot of stories about this in the last 2 days. We're recording this on Wednesday, February 15th. And I saw that the NFL did put out a statement to the Today Show because they had people. Uh, I think it was Twitter that was really going really wild about this topic and just how not how unfair it was. And so the NFL put out a statement saying that they work with. Wait, let me get it right. Okay, so the NFL put out a statement saying they work with the National Association for the Deaf, um, and that they have worked closely with the NAD, again, the National Association of the Deaf, and the network partners to offer a separate stream that is easily accessible for members of the deaf community. The NAD and the NFL are proud of the work we have done to be inclusive and ensure that all songs are signed and all commercials and promos are closed caption. That's what their statement said. That's great, but it's like you've come a long way and you still have a little bit more to go.
Yeah,
So,
like that's the thing that I don't like is when I see other people who don't identify themselves as disability making a comment, and you're just like, okay, but like you never been in our shoes before, right? It's
right.
like, why would you like think, oh yeah, this could be the right fit? Like, don't make that decision for us. We're telling you, and knowing that this is the second time we're coming to you about it. Obviously, you're gonna lose audience. You're gonna lose customers, and
Yeah.
so that's just like we don't need to hear that. We don't need to see that. We get it. We get it. But it's like I said, in 2023, technology has improved. There have to be other ways that we could have done this properly.
Hmm.
And it's like people were saying too, like on in social media, they were saying like she deserved to be seen on the biggest screen when she was in Shimpuning. And I said, oh yeah, like she went off. And like
Right.
she was fire, like Umbrella, when she was singing Umbrella, and I was like, girl, you need to be on the TV, not no special TV. Like that's not fair.
Right.
And but yeah, and it's true that like anything is true, like not all TVs have closed caption, so
True.
it's like that TV don't have closed caption. What are you really doing, right? So it's
Hmm.
kind of like, what are you doing? So that's kind of like really, it is a lot of frustration along towards it, but it just sucks that it's just stuck in time. It's just stuck in time.
Yeah, and I think I think one of the things like you just said, which is important to bring up, that not all TVs have closed caption. Like for instance, I was just I'm currently working on a project, a presentation I have to do, and it was talking about the number of people who here in the United States that use that have the government assistance, the Social Security checks or the SSDI checks, and what the average number is for a married couple. The average income that they receive is $1,200 a month, and for someone on that income, they may not be able to afford a newer TV that has the automatic closed caption option, so they may be using an outdated TV. So but the this year it was on whatever channel it was on, I forget, I think it was on Fox this year. That's a basic channel that people, most people get. So and the same thing with internet, the cost of internet to get YouTube. You have to have the internet to get YouTube, so that might be an extreme cost for people in the disabled community as well. So again, you're missing out, like you said, you're missing out on a large audience that you may lose as customers now because things are not accessible for them to watch. So I'll go watch something else that is accessible for me or do something else. um, so I really, again, I wanted your input and your perspective on all of this. And I knew you would have such great passion about it. And it's just, again, it's very frustrating. It's great. And now that the event is over, again, I've been shown the I've received a link for the young woman Justina who did Rihanna's halftime performance. I've been sent that so many times, and I've watched it just about as many times as I've received it because it is so good. And I just
Who
don't,
was that lovely
right?
Nana?
Yes, and I don't understand. I'm not knowledgeable of ASL too much, but just to watch her perform and just be so passionate about it and put such energy into it. It was
No,
like,
she
yeah, like you said, she was going off. Like, yeah, like,
yeah, like I said, she's fire. Like she
right,
deserves to be on TV.
right.
Like she did.
Yeah, so I really hope that how you have the breakout movie stars and people like that. I hope that they really have her and these other interpreters too, sharing their stories and their experiences. I know she's big on social media,
Yeah,
um,
she
on TikTok or Instagram, but I hope that, like, these talk shows have her and these other interpreters on to, like, share their story and talk about it. I know, I mentioned Troy Kotzer from the movie Coda, which was a great movie. It was such a good movie. I really enjoyed the movie, and it's the cast was mostly deaf, and it just shared their story and their experience of of the children living with the parents who were deaf. And um, so him winning the Oscar for his performance in that movie, I know it had a lot of publicity, and they were on a lot of shows last year to promote the movie and all of that. So I just hope that they can continue. Um, Again, like, the goal of this podcast, the mission of this podcast is to educate, raise awareness, and change the tone of conversation about disabilities. We have to have these conversations, although they are frustrating and we keep having them way too often. And we shouldn't have to. um, but if we keep having them and talk loud enough, and enough people share those links, and enough people share conversations like this podcast, hopefully they get into the right hands, into the right ears, and we can really start to see some big changes. um, because again, like, it doesn't, like, accessibility isn't just for that one community. Like, for me, with a ramp doesn't just help people with mobility issues or wheelchairs. It helps everybody can walk up a ramp. So it's like more places should have them. And um, again, there are children who are learning ASL, and for them to have this experience and to see this at such a young age. Like, when I was growing up, there were never any people of color that had disabilities that were on TV, unless they were making fun of them for some reason. Back in, I'm showing my age, but everybody knows I'm 41. I'm old. There was a show called In Living Color that was a comedy show by the Wayans family that was leading that show, and they had one of the characters was called Handyman, and he had a disability. He was a disabled superhero, but it was like they were making fun of somebody who had a disability, but he was a superhero. So that was the joke, that was the funny part about it. Or was supposed to be the funny part about it, I should say. um so there was never true representation of seeing someone who looked like me on a TV show, or in a movie. So I think, again, I think there's a big missed opportunity, um, that the networks are having here, that they can really be on the front end of making this change to make things more inclusive and more accessible. So
I agree.
yeah. So I think that's I feel a lot better now that I've talked that out, and and you had a
I'm
chance to
glad.
say
I'm glad.
yes.
I'm glad.
Because it's so important, because of, and they always say, like, disability is the one community you can become a part of at any time. You can have an accident and become disabled. uh, a lot of people have become disabled as a result of having COVID the last few years, in all kinds of ways. And I'm really good friends with someone who he actually lost his sense of taste and smell from having a stroke. So you just don't know when you can become disabled, when your hearing might go. Some people are born deaf, and some people lose their hearing over time. Yeah, like you. And yeah, so I remember your story. And so it's something that we all have to consider, where we can literally find ourselves being a part of this community at any time. So um it's better just to be inclusive from the start, and just and again, everybody likes being first in things. So it's why not lead by example and say, like, hey, we're doing this and everybody else should too. um so I think that's pretty much what I wanted to say in this podcast. And if you have anything else to add, you can definitely do that.
Nothing. I would just say honestly, it's a growing progress for them.
Hmm.
For those who don't, and that guy, rephrase that. It's a learning progress for them. It's stuff that we have to consistently advocate for ourselves. But no matter how much or how big the company is, like Super Bowl. We
Hmm.
all know they have money. We all know they could have done something better, but at the same time, there's nothing we can do, especially if it's already happened.
Right.
However, the only way we can make a difference is keep talking about it, like you said, right? Keep talking about it, keep posting it. That's the only way they will know and like, oh snap, like this is really bad. And unfortunately, the fact that the second time that they're doing it to us, we still need to keep going and still talk about it on social media and never give up talking about it.
Hmm.
And that's the
Exactly.
last thing I would say.
Yeah, we do. We'd have to definitely keep talking about it, and just hope that that they hear the people that are talking about it, and are inspired, that they are inspired themselves to make change, to make this change, to make it better, and to make it more inclusive for all of us. And again, just use it as a learning opportunity, and just make it better and do better. So Kalina, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. This was a very last minute thing I asked you yesterday about this, because you were the first person I thought of. And
It's okay. It's okay. I'm glad I was able to make it, even though I do have another meeting, but
yes,
glad
yes,
we made it. Yeah, we were able to
yes,
make it.
yes. So thank you so much. And I will definitely be in touch with you soon. I appreciate you for taking the time to do this.
Not a problem. I hope everybody have a great day and hope you guys have a great weekend.
Yes, thanks. And you too. All right, bye. This concludes this episode of the Our View podcast. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and on our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on all social media platforms at Our View for Life. That's OURVIEW, the number 4, LIFE. If you have a topic or a person, or if you are a person who would like to be interviewed for an upcoming episode of the podcast, send us a DM on Instagram, send us a message on Facebook, or you can email me at ourviewforlife@gmail.com. Thanks for listening.